Come on in, everybody. So why am I smiling when I'm going to be talking about eBay's fees that have increased? And I will tell you why. So today is February 15th, 2023. And if you don't know, it was in the most recent winter seller update. Most of eBay's final value fees are up. Now, fees going up is nothing new. It happens. Costs of selling on all the platforms continually go up. But this is just more and more and more. In the past few years, actually, one of the hardest fee increases from eBay was when they changed the way they calculated promoted listings standard. When it first started, the fee was assessed on the item price. If you charge for shipping, that charge for shipping was not included in the fee you were paying if you sold through promoted listing standard. And I think there was a bit of gamification going on with that. So eBay changed it so that the entire item price and your shipping, and then by the way, sales tax too, of all things, is included if your item sells through promoted listing standard. So that increased the fees of promoted listing standard for most sellers. Additionally, you used to be able to do promoted listing standard at a rate of 1%, which a lot of sellers were doing, particularly if your margins, which is the amount of money that you're making on the items, was tight. That changed. eBay bumped up so that the minimum for promoted listing standard was 2%. And that was, I think, about a year ago. And now, as of February 15th, 2023, the final value fees in most of the categories. Hi, Angela, how are you? I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm glad you're here with me. So just keep you in prayer that you're healing and feeling better. The final value fees in most categories is up. So you look at your eBay selling and hi, Paula, how are you? I'm so glad you're joining me. You look at your listings, and I encourage you is to keep an eye on your eBay invoices because it's happening mid-month, and keep an eye on what a typical invoice for you is. And with the increase in the final value fees, what it does for your invoices. So you're going to want to watch your invoices carefully for the next couple months to see how it impacts you, because we all have different businesses. It's going to impact everybody differently. But for most of the categories, it is going up. For sellers that have large margins, now margin is how much you're making after you deduct the cost of the good, and then any other costs that you might have would be your shipping supplies, if you're paying for any kind of storage. Your margin is how much you're making after eBay fees, shipping, and everything. That's your margin. For some sellers, their margins are pretty tight. So you're really going to want to watch with the bump up in the fees, how it impacts you. And don't forget that most sellers or many sellers are using promoted listings, and that's part of what is eating up your profits too. So you have your regular eBay fees, which whether you're paying a listing fee or not, eBay does give us a certain amount of listings for free if you don't have a store. And then with the store, as part of your paid subscription, which is another fee, you do get a certain amount of listings. Then don't forget you have your final value fee, and that's what just increased. And you may have some promoted listings standard fees. And then there are also add-ons, things like Gallery Plus, subtitles, different things like that, okay? So the final value fees are increasing. So keep an eye on it. It's not like to cause huge alarm, but again, the fee is going up, just like if it gets raised in anything. I'm here in New York City. When the bridges or the tolls, the fees go up, you need to keep that in mind, which is, okay, with our family budget, how are we going to factor this in? So that's why I'm bringing it up. And the way you're going to know is you look at your invoice, and this is going to be an interesting month because it's split right in the middle, and you'll see how it fares. And again, it's good to compare, apples to apples, oranges to oranges. For most people, November, December tends to be really, really busy. So that would not be the greatest month to compare it to, but January might be a good month to compare it to. And then you're going to have your February data, and then you're going to compare it to March, and you'll see how much March bumps up. So keep an eye on it. So with fees going up, What do I do as an eBay seller to stay profitable? Because for those of you who know me, what I'm all about is keeping you profitable. Like, how can I help you sell more? Because that's what we're here for. We're here to have a thriving, wonderful eBay online selling business. So how do I do that with the increase in fees, right? So this is how you do it. This is how you do it. One, because I can't control the final value fee. It is what it is. With something like promoted listing standard, let's say I was giving eBay 4%, and now all of a sudden they're rolling in the shipping and they're rolling in the sales tax. One way to deal with it when that happened was to bump your rate down, just to go down to 3%. And that way you're adjusting. With final value fees, I can't do that. And I want to sell. That's the other thing. I want to sell. One thing about November, December, most sellers tend to sell more, and you notice your bill goes up. Why? Because you're selling more. So sometimes a higher bill is a good thing because it means I'm selling more. But now our bills are going up because the fee itself is going up. So how do I offset that? One, you increase what's called your sell-through rate. And your sell-through rate is how long something typically sits in inventory for you, either as a consumer seller, that means you don't have a store, or with a store. So let's say I'm a clothing seller. And let's say my tops or my dresses or my shoes or my jewelry typically sell like within 6 to 7 months. So then what will help me, because now the cost of doing business has gone up, is if I can sell it faster. Why? Why do I want to sell it faster? Because then I get the cash back in my pocket sooner. I'm not waiting for 6 months to get the money back. I'm going to have it back in 5 months, or in 4 months, or in 3 months. And the reason for this is it lifts up your profits, your cash flow. If you ever watch the show Shark Tank, which is one of my favorites to watch, you'll notice often, if not all the time, the sharks will ask the entrepreneur, how much money do you have in the bank? How much inventory do you have on hand? Because they're assessing what the cash flow is for the business. And the more I can sell through my inventory, which means I'm having more cash flow, the better, right? Because then they're reinvesting, they're buying more inventory, and they also have money. And they'll say to you, are you paying yourself? You'll have money to pay yourself. You'll have money to put aside for some of your household bills and your needs. Maybe you're saving for vacation, for kids' college, that kind of thing. So the faster you sell something, and at a good profit, right? We're not giving things away, we're running a business, the better for you. Because what it means is, I'm going to grab my scissors. What it means is that the money's not tied up in my scissors. The scissors have sold. So then I can buy more scissors, or I can buy pens, or I can buy tops, or I can go on that wonderful vacation I want, or I can go and get the car repair that I need, or pay my mortgage. So that's why increasing your sell-through rate is huge. And if you watch shows like Shark Tank, which I enjoy watching, that's one thing they will talk about, which is how fast the inventory is turning over, what their profit margin is, okay? How much money you're making and how quickly your items sell. Now, I realize that on eBay, many of us sell what is called a long tail item, which is more collectible. But even with a long tail item, a vintage Jack-in-a-Box, vintage doll, vintage toys, typically, let's say it sells in a year and a half. If I can, with doing social media and other things, get it to sell a little faster, again, that's more money back in my pocket. So you can increase your sell-through rate, which is how fast the item sells, in any category. It's about optimizing listings. It's about using things like promoted listings. It's also why eBay will recommend to sellers often that have a store to use things like coupons and sales. Why? Because it brings you shoppers. Why do social media? It brings you shoppers. Why do coupons and sale events? Because it brings you shoppers, and it gets your inventory moving. Moving inventory puts cash in my pocket. And then even with a slight rise in a final value fee, I'm able to afford it because my inventory is moving. It's not just sitting there. Now, the other thing about increasing your sell-through rate, because I'm looking at I have an eBay business. I like selling on eBay. eBay's fees have gone up, which means my margins are getting a little tighter. How can I sell the inventory so I'm getting the cash back in my pocket and keeping my business healthy? And one way to do that is to increase and to sell on more platforms. I work with a lot of Amazon sellers at times that are coming on to eBay. And the reason they're coming on to eBay is they are increasing their sell-through rate. Because when you're on more platforms, you're taking that pen, you're taking those scissors, that top, and you're listing it on more than one platform. Why? Because different people shop different places. People that shop on Amazon, perhaps they don't shop on eBay. People that shop on eBay, they may not shop on Amazon. And one site that I want to bring to your attention that sometimes eBay sellers overlook is Poshmark. When Poshmark started years ago, it was really women's clothing. It started as an app. It didn't even have a website. It was just an app on the phone. And it was really just, I'm cleaning out my closet, I'm selling my things, and I'm buying other people's things. It was very social. It was very much casual. I don't think it really was attracting at the beginning professional sellers. It was very casual, very fun. It has grown. It is a huge app and it has a website. And the other thing about Poshmark, it has 80 million shoppers on Poshmark. And typically with Poshmark, they are not eBay sellers. There is a bit of crossover, just like Amazon, eBay, but typically not that much crossover. And it's not just women's clothing. It's women's clothing now. It's men's clothing. It's kids' clothing, some pet products, home decor. I've got one friend that is killing it selling plush on Poshmark, right? I'm like, yay, good for you. So all kinds of things sell on Poshmark. You can sell some electronics on Poshmark now. Poshmark is a smaller platform. And for those of us in the United States and for my international friends, there is Poshmark in Canada. There is Poshmark in India. There is Poshmark in the United States and Poshmark in Australia. And you do need to be in the country. So if I'm selling in the US, I need to live in the US. If I'm selling in Canada, I need to live in Canada. But for US, you have 80 million shoppers that typically don't shop on eBay, but they shop on Poshmark. So if I take my scissors and my pen and my top and maybe my pet product and my tchotchkes and I put them on Poshmark, that's 80 million shoppers looking at my items and potentially buying them. And all I have to do is get them on Poshmark. This is the wonderful thing. And this is going to really be great for eBay sellers. There's no listing fee. There's no store, non-store. Everybody has what's called a Poshmark closet. There's no listing fee. It costs you nothing. All I have to do is open an account and put my eBay listings on Poshmark. There is a final value fee. What's great with Poshmark, it's 20%. It includes the shipping. They have one size fits all on shipping. So no more of this, haggling over the shipping. It's one price. That's it. There are some discounts that you as a seller can offer to your Poshmark shoppers. So there is a little bit of flexibility, but it's not like with eBay where I'm doing first class, I'm doing priority, that kind of thing. So much simpler platform, less shoppers, but very passionate shoppers, 80 million for those of us in the United States. And it costs you nothing to list on the platform. So for no upfront costs, I'm getting 80 million more people potentially looking at my items, which increases my sell-through rate. And me, as an eBay seller and an eBay seller consultant, I love Poshmark. Why? It's helping my eBay seller friends make more money and move their inventory. So if I have 500 things on hand or 200 things on hand or 1,000 things on hand, and let's say I'm typically selling 5 or 10 things a week on eBay or 15 or 20 things a week on eBay, let's say 20 things a week on eBay, and I'm selling, let's say 2 things a week on Poshmark or 3 things a week on Poshmark, that's 12 sales a month times 12. Or I'm getting 5 sales a week on Poshmark, that's 20 sales a month times 12. And what you might find, and this is what's always interesting, is that with everything that you're selling on eBay, let's say you sell 40 things a week on eBay. You might sell 40 things a week on Poshmark. You will find out. You will find out what sells. You will find out what Poshmark shoppers like. You will find what works for you, just like you find out what works for you on eBay. But there's no listing fee. This is what I love. And the shoppers are different, and it's different people, but you want that. You want new, fresh eyes on your items. I remember when I first started listing on Poshmark a couple of years ago, when I first started listing, honestly, was things that had been just sitting there on eBay that I was willing to pay people to take off my hands. I'm like, please, somebody buy this. It's sold on Poshmark. I'm trying to remember, it was like a pair of shoes or a top or something. Literally within 4 days of listing it, I was like, I'm in love. This is great. There are things that are different. There's a different language. I always say it's sort of like traveling, right? eBay is the United Kingdom and Poshmark is France. You know, you're learning a different language, you're learning a different style, but it's totally learnable. It's a much simpler platform to list on. And the big thing, I'm going to keep saying this, 80 million shoppers and no listing fees. I've written a guide to help you because there are things to learn. There are some ins and outs, and I can really help you sort of fast track your Poshmark sales. So you're going to want to hop over to my website, ilovetobeselling.com, and grab my Poshmark Selling for eBay sellers. It's brand new. I just wrote this. It's over 25 pages. It is very detailed. It walks you through the Poshmark listing process. It explains all about the sharing, which is something you do on Poshmark. It explains Poshmark parties. Again, there's things that are different on Poshmark than eBay, but the big thing is no listing fees. You're going to like this too. No promoted listings on Poshmark. There is no paid search. There's things that you follow when you're listing, and there's things that you follow with the sharing, and you can really generate great search results. They do not have paid search, right? Yay! So I really encourage you. Is one great way to deal with the increase in eBay listing fees is diversify. So many sellers I know, they have a Shopify store and they sell on Amazon. So you as an eBay seller, this is a really inexpensive way to get 80 million more people looking at your items with no upfront cost. So to help you to get up on Poshmark and scale and just get you going and understand the difference in the languages, grab my guide, Poshmark Selling for eBay sellers. It's half off. 10% of the proceeds are going to go to Lorianne Wong's Food Pantry, Reflections of Trinity, and that's in the Atlanta, Georgia area to help folks in need. You will love it, love it, love it. I can hear the cha-chings already. And again, it's that thing of, Kathy, I want to be proactive. I love eBay, but to help me absorb the increase in the final value fees, to help me absorb the increase in the fees, with listing and selling on Poshmark, you're literally taking the same inventory and you're getting more eyeballs on it. More eyeballs means more sales. That means this is going out the door. Typically, if something maybe has been sitting for 2 or 3 months, it'll only sit for 1 month. If something's been sitting for 4 or 5 months, now it sits for 2 or 3 months. It speeds up the sell-through process. And what that does is it puts money in your pocket and increases your cash flow that helps you and your family with bills that you have, things that you want to do, and it gets the cash back in your pocket. So grab my Poshmark Selling for eBay sellers while it's half off. It's on a flash sale. It's only for a few days. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Paula's got it. I know she loves it. Diana's saying lots of my stuff sold on Posh that's set on eBay for several months. Same thing for me. It's fascinating. It is absolutely fascinating. You know, you go, I'll list something on Posh and I think it's going to sell on eBay and it sells on Posh. I'll list something on eBay and I list it on Posh too, and vice versa. It is fascinating what sells where. And again, you're getting different eyeballs on your listings, on your inventory. You're increasing the cash. So enjoy, enjoy, enjoy. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Angela. Thank you, Diana, for joining me live. And grab your copy of Poshmark Selling for eBay sellers while it's half off. Bye-bye, everybody.